Welcome to A Meaningful Life, a podcast dedicated to helping you live a beautiful and deeply meaningful life. I'm Kelly Patterson Smith, and I believe when we live with intention and appreciation for the world, people, and circumstances that surround us, a life full of joy, peace, and purpose is possible. We only get one shot at this, and I don't know about you, but I want to reach my highest potential in this lifetime. I want to align with my true purpose and do everything I was created to do. Maybe you feel the same way. If so, I encourage you to open your heart and mind as we take a journey together to grow and discover what it takes to live a meaningful life. Welcome back to A Meaningful Life, everybody. Today's show is such a special and important one for all you mamas out there. As you know, we are living in unprecedented times right now. All of our lives and routines have just been upended and completely flipped upside down. And to be honest, can I just say, all you mothers out there are crushing it. Can we just take a moment to appreciate that and all the crazy things we find ourselves doing? So in case no one tells you, you are crushing it. You're doing amazing. However, in the midst of keeping everything together for everyone else, how are you doing really? Like, how are you doing? If you're anything like me, you're probably finding yourself tired, overwhelmed, and feeling a whole new kind of mom guilt. What is up with that, by the way? Of course, we love our children more than words could possibly explain, but we're all being called to rise to a whole new occasion. And in doing so, probably not making enough time to take care of ourselves. I know I'm guilty of it. It's something I'm working to get better at every day. So this is the exact reason I wanted to bring you Gervase Kolmos. She's a mindset coach specifically for mothers, and she is phenomenal, you guys. She's so open and raw and honest about her own struggles as a mother of three. And she also provides such a beautiful perspective on modern day motherhood and shares actual tools to help us. She gives us permission to prioritize ourselves and explains the importance of not doing this alone. We need tools, we need resources, and most importantly, we need each other. Motherhood is hard, but there are things we can all do to make it a little bit easier. So here's my interview with the one and only Gervase Kolmos. All right, Gervase, thank you so much for doing this with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me.
Tell us a little bit about, your backstory and where you're at right now.
So I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and oh my gosh, she's going to be one this Thursday. So that's crazy.
Oh.
7, 4, and 1-year-old children, 2 girls and a boy. So I've been a mom for 7 years. And when I first had my now 7-year-old daughter, Aria, I had this real interesting situation where I was working in a sales job and kind of having, I think what many people have in their mid-20s, where you've been coasting for a little bit, you got the first job, you're like, this is good, but like, okay, what's the next level? Like, I've already beat this level of the video game, what's coming next? And so I had been trying to figure out that next level and kept, interviewing for jobs and getting turned down and all this stuff, and became a mom. And that part I knew. I was like, okay, definitely want to become a mom. I wanted to be a mom my whole life. Have a very unique relationship with my mother. And so it's just always been something I've been very interested in learning, growing into, exploring. And so I become a mom, and it's like somebody just dumped a bucket of ice water on my head, and I am totally unprepared and shocked. And so it's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life. It's also the most challenging thing I've gone through in a while. And I feel all the feels, go back to work. And that was a bad time in my life, because as I had been trying to figure out, okay, what's next before the baby was born. I think a lot of people do this. You're always trying to make the whole plan before you have the baby, like, okay, or even years before you have the baby, like 3 years before you have the baby. You're like, okay, this is the plan. Do this job, get to this, rank in my career, then have the baby, then get to this rank in the career, da, da, da. And I talk to a lot of women who they do that, and then they arrive at the new mama part of that timeline, and the whole plan does not fit anymore. So that's kind of what happened to me. And so all the things that I had been pursuing pre-motherhood suddenly did not feel like the right fit. And so I came down with a real nasty version of postpartum depression. And I was like sitting at my desk crying all the time, just hated sending my daughter to daycare. I just kept feeling not this, like anything but this. So long story short, I quit that job with no real plan except to do whatever I had to do to hustle to make money, to fill the gap, because we are a two income family. And then I discovered life coaching. so
Mhm.
so then for the past 6 years I've been a life coach. I would say the first year to 2 years is really like you just are trying to figure out what that even means. You're getting certified, you're learning how to work with clients, you're just learning you're basically getting a master's in a new subject. And I was just telling you, like, I was in theater school before
Mhm. Mhm.
before college. So I feel like I've dabbled in a lot of different industries, but life coaching was brand new, personal growth. So yeah, I've spent the last, 4 to 6 years being a coach. I'm a certified mindset coach. I was starting to coach. I started pretty broad doing,
Mhm.
you know, couples and family dynamics and mothers and all, working on a lot of stuff like that. But I very quickly realized that I was really, really fascinated in talking about motherhood. And that's just it just kept coming up for me. It was the growth that I was going through was always in the context of, okay, I've got all of this other personal stuff happening in my life and I'm a mom, And
Mhm.
so it's really the context. It's not even that we are always talking about crying babies or diapers or anything like that, but it's this really, I don't even know how to describe it, but everything that happens in your life once you become a mother, it's like this huge thing. Being a mom is happening in the background of all
Mhm.
of the other challenges that you're experiencing. So whether that's your career or your partnership or your spiritual journey or whatever it is, you also
Mhm.
have to hold the bowl for your children, right? You're also like balancing and navigating that. And so that's what I ended up being really passionate about, working with women on, because it was what I was going through myself. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I've been a coach for the last 6-ish years, but like I said,
Mhm.
first 2 years spotty.
Well, I just love hearing your journey because I can relate to so much of it because when I was in my career as a news anchor, I felt the exact same way after I became a mother. And it was just like, had that not this moment. I think I'm still trying to figure out,
Yeah.
the path after that. But you're right. So many women go through this exact thing. And that's why I think I'm so fascinated with you and appreciate you so much because if you're not following Gervase on social media, you definitely need to. And she also has a new
No.
podcast, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I just love how you have found this groove with women. And I love how you speak so openly and honestly about the struggles women face and about your own struggles. And I'm curious because we're in such a interesting time, to say the very least. What are you seeing with mothers in this moment that is bringing the biggest challenge? And how are you kind of guiding your clients through that?
That is well, first of all, thank you so much for that beautiful acknowledgement. And
Of course.
I think that honestly 2020, I saw like a meme on Instagram and it was like, this week has been the longest year, right? Or something like that, and
Yeah.
I feel like 2020, at least for myself, I feel like I've lived 4 decades in this one year and have had certain phases. And so I think that I don't know that I can make a sweeping statement, because I think
Hmm.
for a lot of women, they're finally realizing that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And I think
Hmm.
at the beginning we were sprinting it and we were like in survival mode and we were just trying to get to the finish line, which we kept thinking was just within sight. And so a lot of us we were literally in fight or flight mode. I know I was, and we were,
Hmm.
treading water and dealing with massive amounts of anxiety and that like pressure cooker of trying to literally do it all, because we literally were. And then what I've noticed for myself, my immediate circles, I think it's around August, we were like, okay, this is gonna be a long walk. Like we're
Hmm.
gonna be doing this dance for much longer. So I think a lot of people um, relaxed a bit into that long-term vision, which I think it
Hmm.
really is a mindset. It was like literally a perspective shift that had to happen, where we had to recognize, okay, it's not about just surviving the day. It's not, I really have to wrap my head around, what does the next 2 years possibly look like? And so I know for some of my clients and like women in my community, they really were able to start to find a rhythm.
Hmm.
especially, and then election time happened, and that brought up a lot of triggering for all kinds of people. But I think right now, uh, I mean, it's the holidays. So
Yes.
2020 or not, I think holidays are holidays for parents, and it's always just a bit of a scrambly time. But I don't know. I don't know that I can say with confidence that all women are experiencing anything right now, except that
Hmm.
I just know that most people, if you ask, are like, yeah, I'm super anxious. Like anxiety is just like a constant simmer underneath the the
Yeah.
blanket of our lives. But I do think that a lot of women that I know have really calmed their fight or flight response and are
That's good.
just trying to soak it up, enjoy. We're now used to, I mean, like women are so resilient, we're so
Hmm.
adaptable and resilient, and I think we kind of lost sight of that at the beginning of this pandemic because we were, again, just trying to survive. And now I think we're like, no, no, like we're resilient, we're adaptable, we know what to do, we know how to make Christmas Christmas with or without the family holidays, I mean the family parties and the gatherings.
Hmm.
And so I think a lot of mothers right now are like super laser focused on, okay, this is my quote unquote new normal. I'm gonna crush this. Like
Hmm.
this is the same level of hard that it always is because holidays are always challenging. And what do I need to do to be the woman my family is used to having around this time?
Can we just take a moment and just, women are amazing. Mothers are
Totally.
amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
why is it that us ladies, children or not, do not give ourselves the credit we deserve? Why?
Oh my gosh, girlfriend, if I knew that, I would be a billionaire.
I know.
I know it really feels like it feels like the greatest issue of our time. It's
Hmm.
like
It does.
it's like under the surface of every
Hmm.
challenge that a woman faces is you're being too hard on yourself and you're not giving yourself enough credit. Pretty
Hmm. And I think every woman knows that. I just think sometimes hearing it from someone, it feels good and helpful because we're doing a lot, carrying a lot,
much.
and
I know.
it's so hard. I know people in my network, and I'm sure in yours, you just see these women doing these amazing things and being a great mom, and they just, get so hard on themselves and so down on themselves, and they just don't take a moment to pause and realize what an impact they're having in the world and in their children's lives and all that. And
Mhm.
I just
Which
want
is
to shake them sometimes and say, listen, you are amazing. Can't you
yes.
see it?
Well,
You
you
know.
are right now. You're shaking them, so that's great. And I know it's so interesting because I think for me in my life, what has been the most profound experience of me asking for help has
Mhm.
been being in community with other women. Like that is literally why all I can dream about when the world is normal again is hosting retreats because
Mhm.
I have loved the experience of being in masterminds and going on retreats and literally being in community with other women where everybody
Mhm.
like literally you're investing so in your own whatever like holistic
Well-being.
goodness, right? And
Yeah.
but the most powerful thing that happens at these types of events and even at the Champagne Society when we would do those live events
Mhm.
was other women standing up and being like, I see you, I want to acknowledge you, you're amazing, you're doing such a good job. And then another woman being able to fall apart in a safe circle. I just, that is medicine and we kind of underestimate it and we just kind of go about our day with the surface level tasks that need to happen that we need to do as women to make the world go round. But then when you can actually take care of the deeper things that you need as a woman, like finding your people to witness you, acknowledge you, and then doing the same for another woman, I just feel like that is, I would pay so much money, I continue to pay so much money to get that for myself as a woman because it's
Mhm.
it's so healing to hear it from women who really see you, are like,
Mhm.
you're really doing an amazing job, because most of the time you just brush it off. You're like, no,
Yeah.
no, no, I'm not. You need
Mhm.
to really
Mhm.
be grounded to receive it.
Yeah. I think it's so powerful too that you're creating a space for women to do that. For people that aren't familiar with the Champagne Society, can you talk a little bit about that? Because it really is so unique and special. And it's a way, I mean, I know you're kind of doing it podcast version right now virtually because of COVID and everything, but to create that space for women to just come and be and just have that time, we have to make that time.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm getting off track. Can you just talk a little bit about what that experience is like and why it's so important for women, whether it's with the Champagne Society or whatever else it may be, that we do that?
Yeah. Well, so when I first started the Champagne Society, so for those who don't know, the Champagne Society was a live event series that I began here in Charleston 3 years ago, I think. I'm not even sure when. It's been a while. And it started as like an intimate group of, 30 to 50 women, and we would go to these beautiful venues, and I would find panelists. So I'd find these successful mothers that I looked up to that were local, and I would get them on a panel, and I would interview them about what did their juggle look like
Mm-hmm.
of motherhood and all the other things. And what started to happen immediately, like from day one, when we would get in the room, it's like 50 women or 30 to 50 women in a room. And also the other part of this is that, obviously I'm a coach. So from the beginning, I would set this space. And, as a coach, your job is to hold the space. And I know that sounds really woo woo and ridiculous, but if you've actually been in a container, you know the difference. Like I've been in
Mm-hmm.
spaces where somebody has not said, this is a safe container. Like there's no judging here. I'm in charge. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
creating rituals and practices so that everybody in that circle, in that space knows, like, there's no judging. This is a safe space. I can say, I can speak from my heart and be witnessed without judgment. And I will also be acknowledged. And that, again, goes back to what I was saying before. And I've been in spaces where that hasn't been done and people don't share as vulnerably. And I just have not felt safe sharing in those spaces, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
is actually pretty important. And so I always knew when I was going to create this event series, I wanted to do that from the beginning. But also we're still like having a good time. Like, we're all dressed up. It's not like come to this like witch's circle. It's like, it's
Yeah.
it's like it's a balance of come to this awesome night out and we're going to talk. But wait, hold on. Before we even start, let's just say, like, nobody here is better than the other. Nobody has it all together. There's no judging. We're in the trust tree. Anything you say is totally fine. Like you can curse, you can talk shit. Like it's totally fine. And so what happened is that sometimes the panelists were very graciously transparent about the challenges they were experiencing in
Mm-hmm.
their lives. And it wasn't just motherhood. It's just the challenges we all experience, like just
Mm-hmm.
being human. And then, women in the audience would stand up and share their experience. And I don't know, I just noticed this amazing thing happening where when somebody would share, I created this thing where we would snap. And
Mm-hmm.
so if somebody's sharing something really vulnerable, like sometimes they'd be crying or something, and you either want to say like, me too, like I've been there, I feel you, like, yes, 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 you would just snap. And so we just kept having this experience where panelists or audience members would be standing up and sharing, and then the room would be filled with snaps. And so that was what I called the Me Too, which I
Mm-hmm.
know obviously Me Too is not such a good thing to say anymore, but I'm talking about the motherhood Me Too, which is
Mm-hmm.
you're not the only one. Like, you're not the only one who has bad days. You're not the only one who's struggling with this. You're not the only one who lost it on their kid the other day. You're not the only one who is too hard on herself and doesn't feel like she's doing enough or doesn't know what she's doing. And something about that was so liberating for everyone in the room and empowering. And so it's that process where you bear it all, you're super transparent in a safe space, and then people acknowledge you, and then suddenly you're invincible. Suddenly
Mm-hmm.
you feel so empowered because you can drop the judgment piece. Because in my experience, again, with myself and as a coach, the biggest, I would say, literally top two issues for women, modern mothers today, is judgment. It's self-judgment. So it's not just that you lost it on your partner today, it's that you're also creating a story about what that means about you, that you lost it on your partner today. So as soon as you speak that into a crowd, shame can't withstand being spoken, and then the whole crowd is like, oh, I did the same thing, I did, me too, me too, me too, then you can drop the judgment piece, and then you're so much lighter, and you can actually clearly see, oh, okay, well, of course that's not necessarily ideal, I don't want to be that person, so what do I need to do to fix this? Like, you can everything is fixable, and just move forward, like move on,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just like dragging yourself through the dirt, being super hard on yourself because you made a bad choice. You can just drop the judgment when you're surrounded by women reminding you, like, everybody does that. So that's kind of what I wanted to come out of the Champagne Society, but I had no idea the level to which that was going to be the greatest takeaway. That's my
Mm-hmm.
super long answer to your question.
No, I love that. And I love the thorough explanation of that, just so women who aren't familiar with it can get an understanding of the importance of having a community like that to share that sort of thing with. And the thing that came to my mind when you were talking, because obviously we don't have a lot of events and stuff like this right now. Are there things that moms can do or women can do right now that can help them release some of that judgment and kind of lighten the load, if you will, right now when we can't all connect in this way?
Yeah. Well, there's so many things. I mean, I think having a toolbox of practices that you can turn to when you feel like you're spiraling,
Mhm.
for me at least, has been key in my life. So whether that's movement, whether that's, I have recently certified in hypnotherapy. So now that's part of my toolbox, is like I put on a hypnotherapy track and I listen to it either in the morning or before I go to bed. And it's 20, 30 minutes, whether it's meditation, whether you have, like I'm in a mastermind, I'm going to run a mastermind, whether you have a coach or a therapist, whether it's medication. Like I think like the modern woman needs to literally be constantly actively seeking what are the things I need in my tool belt to to be a successful woman in 2020,
Mhm.
because we're literally like, we've got these primitive brains, but we have this modern world with like millions of tasks and choices and responsibilities. So you can't just assume you're just are going to soldier through it. That's just not going to work. So yeah, I would say hypnotherapy, support from a therapist or a coach, a mastermind, meditation, movement. Those are just a few that come to mind.
And tell me about this hypnotherapy. So I'm familiar with meditation and a lot of the other things you've talked about in the toolkit. Hypnotherapy is something that I'm not as familiar with, but I'm very interested in. So can you tell us about hypnotherapy, what it is, how this works, and kind of how you're incorporating it?
Hypnosis is a relaxed state of focused concentration on a goal. And so we
Mhm.
go out in and out of states of hypnosis all day long. So when you're driving and you kind of like, zone out, but you know where you're going, your conscious mind is driving the car, blah, 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 but you kind of zone out. Maybe you pass your exit and you're like, oh my God, how did that happen? You're literally in a state of hypnosis. Or when you're watching TV and, you watch a movie or something and you're scared because it's like a scary part, or you're crying because somebody dies, like, it's not real, it's TV, but it feels real because you're in a state of hypnosis. And so it's not anything to do, a lot of people make jokes about like, oh, are you going to make me kill my husband in my sleep or something? It's like, no, I can't.
People
the
are used to the, TikTok, you're
right,
getting
right, that's like
sleepy,
that's
that thing. Yeah.
stage hypnosis. And
Yeah.
so it's only able to happen when the person is in control, right? And so like you as the hypnotist don't do anything to control the other person. You're just helping them get into their own very relaxed state of focus concentration. Except the thing that I love about it is like it's concentration with a goal in mind. And so I think my teacher called it, she was like the best kept secret for the modern busy woman, because we're all about goals. We all want to achieve goals and set
Mhm.
goals, and so we want to we want to like, we're like, yeah, I got to hustle for my goal. I got to get up and work and not sleep. And I'm not about that hustle life. Also, I'm
Mhm.
incapable of maintaining it now with 3 kids, but I've
Mhm.
always been kind of like, that feels gross to me. And
Mhm.
so for this, you can say, I want to, I mean, really common ones are, drink less or eat better, or, work out, or, tangible goals like that. And then
Mhm.
you just work with someone and they put some positive programming, which is just kind of like affirmations almost, into
Mhm.
a hypnotherapy track. And then you just listen to it and you go to bed and you wake up and suddenly you just kind of want to exercise and you kind of want to make better choices throughout the day. And so it helps you achieve your goal by relaxing, which I think we could all use a lot more of these days.
Mhm.
And the way that I'm using it, I mean, I just think it's like this lovely gift that I can now give to my clients, because I was, you know, as a coach, you meet via Zoom or phone, and you talk
Mhm.
through things and you ask powerful questions and you help your clients kind of tap into their own inner wisdom and the answers that they need. And you kind of reflect to them like you're the snapper, like, yeah, go
Yeah.
do it. Like, it's
Mhm.
fine, but now I can also hear what are the limiting beliefs that are blocking them from making the choices they want to make, and create like a beautiful, nourishing hypnotherapy track that's really customized for them to then listen to for 21 days straight. And that just is almost like a rocket fuel to help them
Mm.
reach their goals even more quickly.
What I think is so cool about that too is because, whether you work with a therapist or a coach, you don't talk to them all the time. And you kind of wish you could sometimes. So to
Yeah.
have that little additional piece, I think is really cool because it's like they're there
Totally.
guiding you
Hmm.
without actually
Right.
physically
And
being there for
they're
you.
reminding you, like for me, it's like usually a person has the same couple things that
Hmm.
like the stuck things that come up for them, whether it's, anxiety or being too hard on yourself. And so, you know, you can talk to a coach every day for 21 days, but sometimes you really need to get to your subconscious mind,
Hmm.
to convince your your conscious mind to get on
Hmm.
board. And so it's like your little reminder. It's like, oh, instead of calling Gervase, I'm just going to pop on this track and get into a deep, deep state of relaxation so that it's the things that she is saying are now like able to be received by my subconscious mind. And
Hmm.
it's just the reminder I need every day instead of her just talking to me.
Hmm.
It's two pronged, like talk therapy and like talking to somebody is super, super powerful. And then you got to get into the meat. You got to get into your lizard brain.
Hmm. I'm glad you explained that because when I heard hypnotherapy before, I'm like, what is this? Because
I
I feel like you're
know.
on the forefront of this because I don't hear many people talking about it.
Yeah, I'm so into it, and
Hmm.
I forget that people are like, "That is so weird." She was already weird. Now she's even weirder. I'm like, "You're weird. You're not doing this. It's amazing." Because I
Yeah.
just, as somebody who has like been on and off antidepressants and like I've tried everything, and I
Hmm.
am all about just like constant explore. I'm like constantly curious and
Hmm.
constantly just devoted to feeling good. But I was like, there's no negative side effect. There's nothing bad about this. Like
Hmm.
what you don't have to pay. I mean, even the way that I'm offering it, I mean, obviously I'm giving it as for my private clients, like I'll give like really customized tracks, but even I'm doing like these one-off sessions. So fine, you pay once for a session with me and then I hear what I like learn the information I need to know and I make
Hmm.
you a track and you can listen to it forever.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't you?
I
Like
think
for
people
me,
who discount things like this or call things like this woo woo are people who haven't experienced that
yeah,
or
that's
aren't
true.
curious or aren't willing. They just kind of brush it off like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. I'll just go on my way and just be miserable. But people who are curious and are wanting to be better, I find fascinating too, because a lot of the things I'm reading, and I know I'm totally going to butcher this, but there's so many different sayings, but basically as we think we are.
Yes.
And so if we're constantly filling our mind with the positive things that we want, it will manifest on the outside, on the external. And I
100%.
think this is such a cool way to do that because right now, for example, myself, like in meditation and prayer, whatever, I do that myself. But to have someone guide you through that and
Mhm.
constantly be in your head, like reminding you of the things you want to manifest on the outside,
Mhm.
I think it's really cool.
100%. And I think it's also so helpful to get an outside perspective. Like I think the thing is, and again, I'm literally speaking from personal experience, I keep coming back to whenever I start to spiral again, I realize like, oh, I felt like if I couldn't do this myself, there's something wrong with me.
Hmm.
Like if I
Hmm.
can't like pray myself to feeling good every day, then I'm a failure because she can. And so if she
Hmm.
can do it and I can't do it myself, then like I'm messed up. And I think that narrative is so toxic because everybody has help in some way, like it can look a lot of different ways, but also nobody gets a prize for doing things on their own. And so I know for me, I have found myself at various times being like, oh, I know that I want to work with that coach. I know, like, why do I feel like I need to figure this out myself
Hmm.
when somebody could get me there so much faster? And honestly, I'm not even trying to say like hire coaches, but I just mean in general, whether it's
Hmm.
antidepressants or a hypnotherapy track or something, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we started talking about with putting so much pressure on ourselves. It's
Yeah.
like we're a modern woman juggling all this stuff, being this one person for everyone. We're like the the nucleus of the family, and
Hmm.
then we refuse to accept that like maybe we don't need to do this alone. Maybe we could actually do it more easily with support, and whether you have to invest in it or spend time on it or just
Hmm.
ask for support, it's worth it, like
Hmm.
what's so noble about doing it alone. So yeah, I'm just all about asking for the support.
Yeah, I think it's so hard to do, especially like I think before any of us become mothers, none of us realize what it really is, like what it's
Oh
really going to be like. And then
my
I think we're
gosh.
all kind of slammed upside the head, like, whoa, because you have this
Yeah.
vision, and then you're like thinking you should be able to do it all on your own, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
not going well.
100%. 100%. And then it's like the doing it all. I don't know. This is what me, Erin Bird, the founder of Totem, she was in my last podcast
Hmm.
episode, and we literally had this whole conversation about having it all versus doing it all. And then we
Hmm.
were like, well, what is your all? I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
really an important distinction to make, because you can look. I know I had this happen to me just this week, where I was looking at somebody's house that I know, and it's like beautifully decked out for
Hmm.
Christmas. And I
Hmm.
had this thought of like, oh, my house, I haven't had time. And I also, that's not my thing. Like I'm not like a big
Hmm.
decorator. And then I started to create a story about it. And I was like, wait a minute. That's her all. That's
Yes.
her thing. She loves decorating for Christmas. You don't like decorating for shit. That's not you. Like, what is your special sauce? Okay, experiences and fun and adventure and silliness. Like, that's your thing. So just go do your thing and stop trying to be you and do the whole house decoration for Christmas, because that's her all and it looks really good, and you should be able to do that too. It's like there's room for you to have it all, as long as you are being very discerning about, am I doing this because I'm trying to keep up with so and so and I think I should be doing it, or am I doing it because I like doing this stuff and I love being Mother Christmas and doing this
Hmm.
for my family. It's a different, it comes from a different place, it brings a different energy, and so it feels very differently as you're carrying it.
And this is why social media can be so damaging to mental health, because you see Miss Christmas over there and you're like, oh, wow, I should be doing that. But if it's not
Yeah.
your thing, and then you start judging yourself and you start wondering if you should be the person that does that because it looks so
Yep.
fun and pretty and all
Yep.
that stuff. So,
Mhm.
on the social media note, really quick, for women who do this, who look at social media, because it drives me nuts because they think they're not good enough because they see this garbage on Instagram that's not even real. How can we do better about reeling it in and not looking at these things thinking we have to be those things?
Yeah. This is like, there's a lot of steps to this, I feel, that I
Yeah.
want to go into, because like I'll have clients now that will vox me and they'll be like, hey, I'm feeling really triggered, so and so is doing this thing and it's pissing me off, but because of our work together, I know that it's not about her, it's about me, but I don't think there's anything wrong with me and I'm really annoyed in this moment, and so I'm voxing you so you can just like remind me, even though I don't want to hear it, right? Because basically, every time you look at another woman or a social media feed and you feel anything close to judgment or like blame or jealousy, that is not about the other person. It is about you. And so,
Mhm.
the first thing that I always recommend is like, okay, if you can just bring awareness, like one, become aware, like, okay, it's fine. This is, you're a human. Everybody does this, but recognize that what you're feeling right now is not about her. It is about you.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with baking 2,000 Christmas cookies for your family. That's her thing. I don't care. Maybe, and maybe it's not, and maybe she's doing it out of shoulding, but like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter,
Mhm.
right? Don't make it about her. So now what does it say about me? And usually it's like, oh, because I did want to bake cookies with my family yesterday, but I didn't because instead I cleaned the toilet and I, whatever. Like
Mhm.
you can kind of like mine for data there. And so
Mhm.
I think it's like a really, really awesome opportunity that every time you notice comparison on social media, to put it back on your, like, become aware, recognize that you're human, everybody does this, and like bring it back to you, and like really go through your day, like what is this trying to tell me about myself? Like, where did I abandon myself today? Where am I not acknowledging myself? And then obviously a staple exercise that like every mother should always just do is recognizing like, what is your signature dance move? Like, what is your special sauce? And like come back to that over and over and over again, because, and I say signature dance move because like I was a dancer. And so I remember like, oh no, we're like a dancey family. Like we dance, and I see my kids' faces light up when I start being silly and dancing, and that's how I know like I'm in my power, I'm in my zone. Like I am literally doing my signature mom move, and this counts just as much as 1,000 Christmas cookies. And I don't need to create a story about the 1,000 Christmas cookies. I just need to come back to my signature move. And
Mhm.
so every mother should really like all like spend time journaling or working with somebody, like really getting clear on what's my special sauce. What is the thing that I do that brings me joy and my kids joy at the same time? So you can like come back to it every time you start to get caught up in the social media world of Mother Christmas.
I love that. Have your signature dance move. It's so good. So good. Um, can you tell us, oh, I know we're getting close to the end of our time here, but this podcast is all about helping people live a meaningful and fulfilling life. And I think we've covered so much today and you've talked a lot about this already, but is there anything else you want to add? Any advice you would give to women just to help them live a more meaningful, fulfilling life and not being so distracted by the noise and all
Yes,
that?
that is such a good question. And I would say, I referenced this earlier and on a different podcast, and I literally don't know who said this quote, but in the movie Under the Tuscan Sun, there is a character who quotes somebody, and she says, to live a full life, you have to live spherically in every direction. And I really want to encourage women to live spherically. And that means not just two dimensionally. Like, I think a lot of us are literally living like, what is happening in my house? What do I need to do for my kids? And that's not a meaningful full life. And so it starts to feel really flat, it starts to feel really unrewarding. And so think about like the visual. This would be great in a hypnotherapy track, by the way. What would be the visual of to live spiritually? Like if I'm just living in my to-do list and my career, let's say, okay, what would it mean to live more than two-dimensionally, in other directions? Like, oh, it might be cool to take a cooking class, or it might be cool to learn how to curl my hair, or it might be nice to play the piano, or like have great sex, or like, I don't know, whatever it means to just stretch it out a bit. It's literally like in my mind, it's a visual thing of like
Mhm.
really like going into those areas of your life that you're just not even counting as living, because I think you can only feel that your life feels meaningful when you literally are living in multiple directions. And you can only do the modern, to-do list and career thing for so long before you're like, this is not fulfilling. So
Mhm.
that's
Great
my
advice.
that's my long-winded answer.
You're so full of so much goodness, and I'm curious if there are any books or resources that have changed your life that you would recommend to others.
Mm. So my favorite book, like honestly, I am not a big, I've read a lot, but
Mhm.
most of my insight has come from working with other people, to be honest, and living
Mhm.
it. But my favorite book that I have come back to over and over is The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle
Mhm.
Bernstein, which is kind of about law of attraction, which is really, I don't talk about it that much because I just think
Mhm.
everybody's spirituality is personal to them, and I really don't like to put a one size fits all spiritual compass on it. But I think that is
Mhm.
the book that has changed the way that I live my life the most,
Mhm.
and that has like bled into other areas of my life that I really see it coming full circle over and over and over. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That is a great book, by the way.
Yeah.
So where can people find you if people are listening to this and they're like, I need more Gervase in my life? I know you have a lot going on. You're in a lot of places. So where can we find you?
I would say gervasekolmos.com is the website, and we've got a couple ways to work together. I'm on Instagram at Gervase Kolmos, and I do have our digital course. It's my first digital course for mamas coming out, I think January 11th is what we decided. And that's called Becoming, and that will just be a self-guided, awesome um, digital program for mamas. And it's really just going to be, whether it's your first baby or your third baby, it's literally all of the principles that I used after each baby to like bring myself back into my power and really become the mother that I felt that each child was inviting me to be. Because I think we can either shrink or we can expand with each child that's born, and we can like try to do things the same way, or we can become the woman that we are being invited into being. So that's what that will be about, and that starts January 11th, and I would love to have some women join me there.
Awesome. I love how you say that because I'm just thinking of my two sons. One is very different than the other. My second son is challenging me in new ways. And I love how you
Mm-hmm.
say becoming the person that they are,
Yes,
that you're being called to become for them. I think that's really cool.
absolutely. It's an
Well, thank
invitation.
It sure is. Well, you're a treat. Thank you so much for
Oh,
doing this today.
thank
It's
you
been
so
awesome.
much.
And I really think that this information could change lives.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope this podcast empowers you to take charge of your life as a mom. We don't have to power through it all alone and ultimately lose ourselves along the way. It is possible to be a mom and still be a woman that has desires, goals, dreams, and time to work on all of these things. We have to build our toolkit, ask for help, and most of all, don't be so hard on yourself. You are doing great. If you know a mama that needs to hear this today, please share this podcast with her. I hope you have a great day. And as always, thanks for being here.